So if your content isn't educating or entertaining, it's probably invisible. Not because the algorithm is punishing you, but because there's nothing there to reward people. I'm Clint, and this is Creativity That Converts, the show where we unpack the art and strategy of using video to grow your business. This is the space to learn what's working, what's changing, and how to create content that really connects. No fluff, no ego, just real talk that gets results. Welcome to Creativity That Converts. Welcome to 2026, and hopefully your best year yet. We kicked the year off with a bang here, coming straight out of the gate, working on some incredible projects with some amazing agents and an unreal team behind the scenes. There's a lot of momentum right now, and this year we're really leaning into it, going deeper, telling better stories, and building work that actually lasts. So thanks for being here, and let's get into it. First things first, a huge announcement. This year, we're going weekly with the podcast. We had so many people reach out over the break and ask when we would be back and if it was going to be a regular podcast, not just in seasons. And it really got me excited for an awesome year. So let's kick it off with the first episode. I wanted to set the tone for what we're actually paying attention to right now. Not predictions, not hot takes, but what we've noticed and can actively see and saw over the break. We were watching how people are behaving as they came back into the new year. And two things are becoming very clear. The first is the shift we're seeing with AI. And the second is something just as important. And that's how people are craving story and depth again. And those two things are deeply connected. So let's start with the AI part. And not just another AI is here, make sure you're using it, but how it's actually referencing its material and where it's getting its data from. Over the break, we've seen more and more reports and discussions around AI models increasingly using YouTube as a reference material. Some figures being thrown around suggest it could be as high as 40%. Now, whether that number ends up being exactly right or not, it almost doesn't matter because the direction makes complete sense. AI doesn't invent human behavior, it reflects it. Algorithms, whether they're social platforms, search engines, or AI systems, are ultimately built to follow what people want, what they engage with, and what they actively search for. And for a very long time now, when people want to understand something properly, they've been going to YouTube. Not for headlines, not for snippets, but for explanations. How to do something, how to fix something, how to make better decisions on something. YouTube has quietly been the biggest education platform in the world for years. It was just never labeled that way. So when I see AI starting to lean more heavily on YouTube, this isn't some sudden revolution. It's a reflection. What's actually happening is a reward system catching up. The people who've been showing up consistently on YouTube for years, creating depth, answering real questions, building libraries of useful content, they're already seeing the upside. Not because they chase trends, not because they crack some algorithm code, but because they invested in being useful. They built something that compounded. And that brings me to the second thing. What we've really noticed are people are hungry for story and depth again. You can see it everywhere if you zoom out a little. Netflix documentaries are more popular than ever. Long-form, slow-burn stories uncovering things that were never talked about. Stories that take time. Stories that trust the audience to stay with them. At the same time, you've got filmmakers like James Cameron still releasing 3.5-hour movies, and people are happily sitting through them. So hopefully, this finally puts to rest the 7-second attention span myth. Because if attention spans were genuinely broken, none of that would be happening. People don't have short attention spans. They have high standards. Now think about that. They'll give you the time, but you've got to give them a reason to be there. This is where a lot of conversation has started to quietly shift. Suddenly everyone's saying it needs to be story. And yes, that's true, but it's not new. Story isn't some trendy overlay you add to content. It's not about dramatic hooks or emotional manipulation. Story is what keeps someone invested after they've decided you're worth listening to. And this is the part that matters most going forward. If you want to be seen by platforms, by algorithms, by AI, and most importantly by people, you have to provide value. Not maybe, not occasionally, every time. That value comes in two forms. education, where you're helping someone understand something better, and entertainment, where you're helping someone feel something meaningful. And the best content, it does both. So if your content isn't educating or entertaining, it's probably invisible. Not because the algorithm is punishing you, but because there's nothing there to reward people. This is why YouTube is rising even further to the surface right now. It allows context, it allows nuance, it allows ideas to breathe, it allows trust to be built over time, and AI is simply amplifying that reality. What we're seeing isn't the future arriving suddenly, it's the long game paying off. The people who understood this years ago are already ahead. And the people who lean into it now will be the next ones who benefit. So as we go weekly this year, this is what this podcast is going to focus on. Not hacks, not panic-driven reactions to every platform update, but how to build content that actually compounds. How to create stories that hold attention because they deserve it. How to be useful enough to be referenced. First by people and by algorithms. Because platforms will change, AI will evolve, formats will come and go, but depth, story, and value, they've never stopped working, and they're never going anywhere. So if you've been feeling like the noise is getting louder, or that content is just getting shallower, this is your reminder that the opposite is quietly happening underneath. Depth is winning again, and the people who understand that will keep building quietly while everyone else chases the next update. That's where we'll leave this episode for now. If you got value from this, stick with us. We're going weekly from here. In episode 2, we're going to get very specific on this. We're going to break down what actually causes certain agents to be surfaced by AI and why others aren't. We'll look at the types of content that create clarity, build trust, and make someone easy to reference, both for people and for search-driven systems. So if you're creating content but not seeing it work the way you expected, that's where the answers start to show up. I'll see you in episode 2. Thanks for listening.